Buddy Wade here, XL Painting Contractors, and this is part 2 of my series to do with the exterior of this board and batten house that's on the west coast of Auckland. At the completion stage, but the weather is not conducive. So in other words, it is raining today. It's been raining for the last few days, on and off. Now you can work on the opposite side to the weather and find a bit of shelter, but when it comes to final coats, I like it to be dry. I don't like to have too much moisture in the air, and I don't want to have any get onto the surface. Even when you wipe it down, there's still the potential for water getting trapped under that paint. And when summertime comes along, you can get little bubbles size of a pinhead basically that'll come through, and that's moisture trying to find its way out. Now they may not even be seen. They can hardly be seen by the naked eye often. The reason we don't paint even in inclement weather that's had rain and gone is I need to make sure when we're doing final coats that the surface is 100% dry, because if you put paint over the top of it and you end up with a situation where there's a little bit of moisture, doesn't matter how small amount of moisture is locked in behind there, there is a propensity for it to fail during the summertime. Now it may even just be little pinholes that seemingly don't make much difference, so they disappear and you think nothing much more of it. The thing is, that's created a failing point that over the years is going to be the first place that paint fails, that area fails. So we just avoid that altogether. This is one of the reasons that we charge what we do, because we don't rush. We make sure we do everything properly, so we don't want to be in a situation where we're panicking because we're trying to get the job done to get paid. So we make sure that we're paid adequately to do the job and to do the job properly. And we don't make any apologies for that. So let's get on with what this this video is about. So the customer linseed, I'm just going to do a recap. The customer linseeded the exterior of the house years ago. Then it started, black mold started creeping in. Some deterioration of the substrate started occurring, both on the south side and the north side. So north facing, getting a lot of sun penetration on the south side. You had the damp and cold, so mold came in. And then years later he thought he'd put some more linseed over and that would help protect it. Didn't do that. In fact, what it does is it just helps accentuate the damage that's there, because it's only oil. If you're going to do linseed oils or stains or anything like that, you really need to be doing that annually. There are some, and I've talked to a few manufacturers, they have products out there that they guarantee will last several years. Some of them are even carrying a 10-year guarantee, but it's not a true oil stain. What it is they're putting basically a pigmented paint down first, then an oil over the top. Now I still maintain that if you're on an exposed area like ocean front, cliff top, somewhere where you get a lot of wind and rain, the elements are really pounding that, it's still not going to do the same thing, nowhere near the same thing as having paint over the top of it. So it's something to keep in mind when you are looking to get a product applied. If you're getting a natural timber and you're going, so what do we do? Do we paint it or do we leave it natural? As I say, in some countries, in some parts of New Zealand where the moisture content isn't high, and you don't have that subtropical type environment, then that's possible. But Auckland, in the northern area, I do not recommend it. I've seen so many houses over the years that people have got done, they've had the architect come in, recommend this, and it's ended up costing them a small fortune to remedy. So let's get on to what we've done. To remedy this, we've gone around and we've washed the whole area down with a cleaning product that we make up, and that's applied through a knapsack or a spray pump over the whole area. We leave that for 24 to 48 hours. Then we come back, get a pressure washer, not too high pressure because we're not there to blow the socks off the house. We're there to clean the surface down. Then we allow that several days to dry completely. We don't want any moisture trapped in behind the battens or cracks and bits and pieces around joinery, and your feed area, so we make sure that that's completely dry. Then we've applied an oil-based primer undercoat over the whole area. Now the reason we've done that is because there is potential for linseed to still be in some of the timber, and it's really just an insurance. It makes sure that no stains come through, and it locks in any tannins and oils that might be in the timber. So now what we have is a surface that is ready for the acrylic, the latex is to go over the top. So most water-based paints for exterior are latex-based. There are some that have ceramics in them, but for the most part, you'll find when you walk into your paint shop, you're looking for an exterior acrylic is latex-based, which expands. As you know, latex expands and contracts. So when you've got hot days, it'll expand and it cools down, so it bridges and it won't crack. So it keeps the envelope of the house is kept safe and sound. We also no more gapped all the battens, which I showed in a video when I was on site there, and that's for several reasons. So the first of is it looks much better when you go and put those top coats on. It's got a nice molded look to it. It doesn't. When you don't have the harsh lines, you know, and yes, it did take a lot of time. There's a lot of effort put into that, and so there's over 650, close to 700 lineal meters of weatherboard battens that were done, along with doing around the soffit lines and the back edges of the aluminium joinery. Now most no more gap and caulking products will bridge up to about 20 millimeters dry. Often I have an argument with builders, and 50-50 really. Some builders agree with me, some don't, and so I work on that. You should gap everything unless it's designed to allow air to breathe through it, but most houses are built with a cavity that's designed to do that, not the weatherboard. A lot of builders don't like doing it because when they put the weatherboard up and it moves, then you can see the gap where the cracks, where the enamel gaps has gone when it's cracked because the board has shrunk. My answer to that is that you should be moisture testing the weatherboard before it goes up. Now once it goes up, especially this time of year, there is issues because if it rains, then that board is going to absorb that moisture and it's going to swell, and then when it shrinks. But once a board is dry, kiln dry, and it's gone to the moisture content says that board's stable, if you get paint over the top of that, then that issue won't happen. So I've been painting for almost 30 years. So in fact, I'm 50 in 2 weeks time, and I started painting, I started when I was 16, so I've been doing it for a while. And in all that time, I've seen maybe 3 houses where the weatherboard has shrunk and we've had to go back and repair. Not the whole lot. We've had to no more gap, re-caulk and repaint so that it doesn't show up. The number one reason that it will do that is because the weatherboard is not dry enough, and it has been tested, moisture tested before paint goes over the top. And these days there is no excuse for it. I mean, once upon a time people walked around with these expensive pieces of equipment. You'd have your cars, building companies come out, and they, building suppliers would come out and they'd test it, and they'd with a pomp and ceremony. These days you can pick it up in your hardware store, for pennies really. I mean, $60-70 will give you a moisture meter reader, crikey. It'll give you a unit that can measure the moisture, and fairly accurately. I mean, it's not a commercial thing, but you can go around your weatherboards and test the cold side of a house, and if the moisture content's right, do it. Anyway, so I've digressed again, but I'm quite passionate about these sorts of things. Paint is designed to protect the exterior of your building, and putting caulking around it and no more gaps helps do that, because there's no point painting it if it cracks and the moisture gets in between the weatherboards, because then the moisture is going to be pulled into the house and into that cavity, which is meant to dry out because it's got the cavity there designed to get the airflow around it. But the more things we can do to prevent moisture getting into the inside envelope of the house, the better, in my opinion. So now everything's been no more gapped, caulked all around the battens, we've used, I think, just on 40 tubes of No More Gaps. Now we have applied the first top coat around the exterior of the house. So getting back onto how we've remedied it. So we've treated the area to kill any mold spores, got rid of any grime, grease, dirt, salts, anything that's on there, pressure washed the whole thing, dried it down, and now we've applied a oil-based primer undercoat. It's really the only area that I like to use an oil-based primer undercoat. These days I try to use acrylics, which are better for the environment, better for the user, but there are just some instances where you've got to go back to old school. An oil-based primer undercoat, it soaks in, it penetrates deep into the timber, and locks in and makes sure that that foundation, that surface is stable. There aren't going to be any failings, or you're ensuring as much as possible that there aren't going to be any failings. So then we've, as I said, we've caulked everything, and now we're going and putting the first of the acrylics. It's 100% latex acrylic paint, and this particular colour is called Flaxseed, or the Colour Steel, or Element. If you're using resin paint, they all mention it as Element. And we're putting 2 heavy coats over it, so we're laying the paint on as much as we can put on, and it still look good. At the top of the windows, we've No More Gapped bead at the top, so it's got an architrave around it, which is basically a batten. So the top of that batten's flat. So what we've done is we've made sure we've scalloped the No More Gaps, the filler, so when the rain comes down, it runs off the top of the window rather than sitting up on that shelf. So now, as I say, we are at the final of the project. So it's another 4 or 5 days, 4 days work, putting the top coat on. Once that's done, I'll do a walk around and show you the finished product. But that's how we've remedied this job. He should get, they should get, well, as the paint warranty comes with a 15-year warranty. So I've recommended that after 7 years, the seaward side gets another coat, a clean, an inspection, make sure everything is tight and that the gapping's still working, and then another coat over it, and so that'll be another 7 years on that. So the warranty, you know, you can leave it that long, but my recommendation is just do that face, and you're not going to have any breakdown or leaking in the house. All of it, or the timbers that are used inside are all untreated, so they've been oiled on the outside, but any moisture that gets in, and the thing is, it's not when it rains and you see the puddle. That's not the problem, because it's identified. It's the one you don't see, which just is just when it's raining, it's just dripping in there quietly in the background, and it stays in the cavity of the house. You never see it, and it's just slowly deteriorating that timber and causing rot to one day it shows through the surface, and that could take 5 or 6 years. That's where you want to keep an eye on things. That's the silent killer of a house, is seeping water. You know, as soon as you can see water on the floor, then we've got a problem, and that's easy fixed. So that's video 2, how we fixed it. My final video is I'm just going to do a bit of a recap over the whole thing, and talk to you about what you should do if you decide to stay with a raw finish, and how to make sure you maintain that long term, and also how to maintain paintwork on a house, and make sure that you get the absolute maximum time out of it. So yeah, let's leave it at that. I'm going to review the videos and see what it is I have or haven't missed, and then edit this best I can. You know, I don't get too carried away. I'm just using a basic app on my phone for editing, and then I fire it out. This is not about being Mr. Professional in the editing. This is about getting the information out there and promoting good practice when it comes to painting in your house, whether you get a contractor in or you want to attempt it yourself. As always, I'm here to answer any questions, so I'll put contacts they'll come across the bottom or the top, or they'll come around somewhere. And leave a comment, share it with people you think that might like to see this, and help promote, as every YouTuber says, help promote my channel, so I can continue doing this. Well, who am I kidding? I'm going to continue doing it anyway. I love talking. All right.